Hi everyone, I'm Lou
Hi, I'm Jacqui.
and we're both psychology students, and today we want to talk about the climate because both of these subjects are very intertwined. And so we have cards with questions to act like conversation starters. You can find the question on the video description if you want to do the same with your friends or with people that you know. And yeah, this is Climate Yap. First question is, how do people I hang out with impact the way I feel about climate change?
So I love this question because I feel like just everything social is really interesting. I feel like also you as a viewer, you can think it through as with your groups or the people you hang out with kind of, because the people we hang out with do impact like how we view the world, because normally it's the way we choose who we want to hang out with, because that is our social identity.
Sure.
So just to explain to you guys what social identity means and like the social identity theory, it means that we surround ourselves with people who normally share the same beliefs and attitudes and worldviews as we do. So those are the people we call our in-group. So for example, Lou and I, we both study psychology.
Yeah, so one in-group.
Yes, we're one in-group, and then the other study fields, for example, when somebody studies law, they are the out-group. And if we feel like our social identity is being kind of threatened by them, we want to protect that. And you can also see that with the climate change as well, because normally I feel like we surround ourselves with people who have the same beliefs regarding the climate change, so they do have a huge impact on us.
Yeah.
And to answer the question, how do the people like I hang out with impact the way I feel about the climate change, maybe ask yourself following questions, like what kind of beliefs and attitudes do I have? And then what do the people I surround myself with believe in, and what kind of attitudes do they have? Because are they aligned? Like, do we have the same interests or not? Because the most important thing, or like I've learned, is that you can really choose your social identity which you want to kind of embrace. Because we all have like different social identities. We are like students, we are friends, but also, I don't know, if you do like a hobby, that's your separate social identity kind of, and you can really choose which one you want to embrace. And so if you want to start kind of enhancing or like engaging more into climate action, maybe also start surrounding yourself with people who have the same beliefs, because you really have control over that. And you can just choose which identity you want to embrace in kind of. And also, one thing I also wanted to add is that it's also important to just like start talking. I mean, that is also something that Catherine Hayhoe said in her TED Talk, that you just have to talk about it. Like, just surround yourselves with people who also are willing to do that. And also if they don't, if they don't want to talk about it, maybe you're the person who just like gets the conversation starting. Maybe with this card game, or just like pick a friend and do that, because that's the one thing that also helped me to kind of embrace that social identity I have.
Or a family member. I remember like my brother and I, we stopped eating meat basically at the same time. And when we went to visit my grandma after that, she knew that we became vegetarian, but she cooked us a duck. And we were like, Grandma, we cannot eat that. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, it lives in the water. It lives in the water, so it's not meat. That's like how she, like, it's basically fish to her, you know? So sometimes people don't get it, but a lot of people are willing to change. So start the conversation, and it's good.
I love that. I have the same with my grandparents. It's always, but it's like they just don't know what the term vegetarian is. So each time I'm there, they're like, oh, you're not allowed to eat this, and it's obviously meat. And I'm like, no, like I'm not allowed to eat meat. Like that is the term vegetarian. And so it's always kind of funny to have that. But it's good that they're willing to kind of talk about it. And if not, then we'll just start. Perfect.
Okay.
Then we'll go on with the next question. So, can you explain the Exxon Mobile scandal?
Sure, I can try. So Exxon Mobile is an American oil and gas company. It's one of the biggest in the world. It's like it owns like exploitation structures in almost every continent. And the oil industry in general is just very, very polluting. I'm sure everybody knows that. But the scandal around Exxon Mobile specifically is that I think in 2015, something like that, journalists discovered that back in the 70s, ExxonMobil hired scientists to investigate the consequences of their activities on the environment. And in 1977, they discovered greenhouse effect and global warming. Like they predicted global warming. And what's even crazier now that we are decades later is that we understand that not only did they predict it, but they predicted it almost perfectly. Like the graphs are crazy to look at because it's almost exactly the same line. So it's pretty messed up and pretty infuriating because not only did they know and not change anything, like keep making money out of this, but they pushed like campaigns to deny the results and to disregard the researchers and to question the reliability of their own researchers and like their own like the experiences that they conducted themselves. So yeah, it's a good reminder that don't beat yourself too hard. Like they love for us to blame ourselves for climate change and blame each other as individuals, but what they do is like even worse. Like in 2022, I think the oil and gas industries produced about 19 billion tons of CO2. And if you took like, for comparison, if you took like all of the inhabitants in Europe, it's like 3 billion. So yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, and that actually relates to something in psychology that's called the I frame and the S frame. So the I frame is when you try to look at a problem and like find a solution for a problem through the individual perspective. So like what can you change in the person's way, like how can you change the person, like the way they think, the way they act, but a way better and way more efficient way to act for climate change, like against climate change, is the S frame, so the systematic perspective. So how can you change the norms of society, the rules of the game, how can you change governments and institutions and corporations, and that's way more important. So don't beat yourself too hard if you take your car to go to class or something like that, because there's way worse.
There's Exxon Mobile.
There's Exxon Mobile, yeah. So you know. Should we go on?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
So the next question is, how do you experience eco-emotions in your own life?
Yes, so first of all, maybe to explain what eco-emotions are. It's kind of nice that it says in the name, like eco-emotions are the emotions you kind of can experience as an individual because of the environmental changes we are currently currently have on this planet. And these emotions can like really vary from individual to individual. For example, some individuals who are really confronted with the changes of the climate crisis, for example, if you had to leave your home due to the climate crisis, they might experience emotions like fear and just like hopelessness and stuff like that. Rather than other individuals, for example, people who are just a little bit more privileged, they will feel more guilt or just like they will be probably more hopeful and optimistic regarding the whole problem. So that is like a big term. And then maybe also to talk about eco-anxiety, because probably a lot of, maybe, I don't even know if it's only our generation, I feel like every individual can experience that kind of anxiety, but it has become a little bit more obvious nowadays. Eco-anxiety is kind of anxiety, like a little bit more than just like eco-emotions. It's more on the negative side, so really negative emotions due to the climate change and everything happening. And people do react differently to the climate change, and if they experience eco-anxiety, you can either have like the flight avoidance kind of response where you just like don't want to interact with like anything concerning the climate change anymore, or on the other side, you really gather so many information about the climate change because you want to have like all of the information available, which is also not like for your mental health. That is not good because
it's not the best either.
No, every day like you can really read into bad news about the climate change or like our climate, our world. So that is like really a negative feeling, but people do experience that. Like there was this one survey from Hickman et al. I think they did it like 2021. They did a survey of like participants telling how they experience or like what they feel when they think about the climate change, and almost 60% of the participants they were 16 to 25-year-olds. They claimed that they are like really anxious about the climate right now. So that's one thing where I'm like, you're not alone in this. And for myself, I feel like I have not experienced eco-anxiety. I would not say that it was in that kind of, like it was not that feeling, but I have experienced like eco-emotions, especially like talking more about it. Of course it's more aware, you're more aware of like all of the problems, and that your habits are sometimes also not really good for the climate. So on the one hand, I do experience like guilt.
Yeah, me too.
A lot where I'm like, oh, I'm traveling, I'm trying to like not take the plane as often, but I do take it sometimes, and so that's one thing. And on the other hand, I feel like I experience also like anger a lot. Yeah. Especially when I talk to people who don't share the same beliefs and attitudes as I do. Like now coming to the first question again, that gives me, I could just like be so angry, and that is also not good because it doesn't do anything to the other people. Yeah, it's not an effective kind of emotion for other people. But if I don't share the same beliefs and attitudes, I'm like, why don't you, like, come on, it's so obvious. So how is it like with you? What kind of eco emotions do you
I've been eco-anxious before. I feel like less now that I change a lot of things in my life to be more eco-friendly. So now that I'm doing something, I feel less anxious, but I still feel a lot of eco-guilt because I'm not perfect, nobody is, but like, for example, like you said, last summer I took a plane to go on vacation with my friend, and I felt so bad about it. It would like for the first few days it almost ruined my vacation because I felt so bad about it, but I shouldn't, because it doesn't erase everything else that I do. But it's pretty hard. But I do agree that the best thing is to talk to people about it, because most people feel the same way. So.
Yeah, and also I feel like I read this one chapter from Britt Ray in Generation Dread. Yeah, and she pleads for like internal activism. Yeah, and I feel like that is also something which I want to focus a little bit more on in the future.
That was interesting.
Like it's that you just like accept your bad emotions as well, and like really let yourself feel them and not push them down, because sometimes I do feel those bad emotions regarding the climate change, and I'm like, oh no, it's not that, like, just don't think about it. But no, we should think about it. Maybe it's good to kind of release it, and then in that way talk about it. I feel like that's external activism as well.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next one.
So, I feel like people don't care. What do I do about it?
I feel like most people think most people don't care, which is
the same with the eco emotions.
But actually a lot more people than you think, I guess, care about the environment. I think there is a survey recently published in like Science's Advances, and they questioned 59,000 people from like 63 different countries, and 83% of them believe in climate change. So that's already good, but it's not believing climate change and like acting and doing something in your life. It's not the same. Now there's gap between attitude and behavior. But actually, I think the problem is that a lot of people don't really know what in their life is polluting, what in their life is producing carbon dioxide. And for that, I will suggest that you go on a website called myco2.com. It's a very cool website, and it helps you calculate like your annual carbon footprint. Like it has to, it's kind of stressful, but it's really helpful.
Did you do it?
Yeah, I did. It's like it helps you, like it asks you questions about your daily life, like your habits and the way you go on vacation and stuff like that, and then it like tells you like which part of your life are polluting, which is really interesting because, for example, I'm French, so I eat a lot of cheese, and I just like they told me that's like that's not really good. So and now I'm trying to like lay back on it, which is hard for me, but you know. And no, it's really interesting. Like really people should go, and it's really interesting to know, like, because like for sure it's good like you stop. I don't know, like some people stop like using plastic straws or turning the tap off when you brush your teeth, and that's really good. But like reducing your meat consumption or changing the way you heat your house could have such a bigger impact. So yeah, check out their website. And for the question, what can you do about it? Honestly, still talking to people and like educating yourself and trying to, if you can, encourage people to change the way they live or changing a few of their habits. That's already like a lot. It's already good. Okay. I'm done with that. So, any recommendation on this topic? Like things to follow, movies, all this? Want to start?
Yeah, I feel like for myself, I mean, like I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok, so that's where I kind of also have my people who I follow. And it's so funny because, I mean, I was some time ago, I was in a state where I was like, oh, I have to follow like people. And then I just like asked ChatGPT what kind of recommendations ChatGPT has for me, because I was like, on the one hand, I want to kind of like that somebody educates me about the topics, but on the other hand, I also want it to be like a fun way and not like
light and
something which my attention is like drawn towards for a couple of minutes. So ChatGPT gave me this one woman, and she's called Green Girl. Green Girl Leah.
Okay, I know her.
Green Girl Leah. You know her?
Yeah.
Oh really? I love that. Yeah, and like she's really, I feel like she's really inspiring because she does like just like posts and short videos about specific terms. Like if you don't know anything about the climate change, she just like explains it in really simple words. For example, what is ecofeminism? I have never heard about that term, so I was like, oh, I love this. And like this one video of her is really interesting, where she talks about why we still have to have hope. Because I mean, I feel like all people just like struggle with that sometimes. And she also pleads for like radical imagination. So you should just like think about I was like, I like this. So you should really imagine a better future, even if it's like unrealistic. Just like think about that, because the thinking is like imagining is the first step, and maybe we will achieve that kind of future. And it's a way of like keeping yourself doing something and like going or like finding a purpose in like your things. So I would definitely recommend her. And then like there's this other Instagram channel which is called Future Earth, and it's like a little bit more scientific. It's also of an environmentalist. No, that's not environmentalist. Yes, environmentalists.
Okay.
Who do that, and they have every Tuesday they have good news.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yes,
I have to follow that.
And I feel like that is nice too. Also, hope. A big thing. I'm like, it helps to have also positive news, but they also explain other things. And wait, one TikToker I also wanted to talk about. He's an old man who just like sells wildlife graphic tees, which really look good.
It's so cute.
He is so cute. I think his name is like Jimmy Morrison or something like that. We will insert the names of the people.
So cute.
Yes, and he just like donates all of the money he earns through his t-shirts. Like cool. Everything fundraising for the environment. And I feel like if you don't have time to educate yourself, or like if you don't have time to actively be in protests and stuff like that, it's a way to kind of help other people who have the time and the privilege to do that. So I love all of those.
Yeah, me too. I would recommend a movie called Demain, which means tomorrow in French. It's by Cyril, and it's really interesting. It's more of a documentary really, and he just goes around the world and he presents like solutions to fight global warming that already exists and that can be implemented in everybody's life. It's really like full of hope. The music is great, and I don't know, I just really love it because it shows like how this is not only about nature and ecosystem, it's also about how climate activism can better our education systems and our health and our like economy and all this, and so it's really good. And other movies that I feel like are really good for, I mean, it's not directly linked to actually, but I know, to me it does, because it's the Miyazaki's movies, like Princess Mononoke and Nausicaa. In both of these movies, they represent like people fighting to protect nature, and it's really cool because I mean the people that are destroying nature, they're not villains, they're not inherently bad, and you can relate to them because they have their own reason like to chop off the forest, and it's really interesting. It's just beautiful, and maybe it's a good way also to introduce this topic to kids. I don't know, but yeah, I love those movies.
Yeah, true, to get started. I don't know, it also helps.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool.
Okay. Next question. So, I live in Europe. How does it affect me?
Yeah, sometimes we can feel quite safe, which is good because we live in Europe. Like it's hard to picture a tsunami coming in Dublin anytime soon, So we don't feel like an urgent danger, and that's actually why a lot of people don't change anything in their life, even though they believe and care about climate change, because they don't see the danger. And that's called, in psychology, it's called the psychological distance theory. And it's really interesting. It's when your mental representation of a concept seems too far in time or in distance, or it feels like you can never experience this, or people that you relate to, your in-group, your social identity group, would never experience this. And so it's a lot harder to feel like it's affecting you and to feel like you find motivation to act. But actually, not to be too like alarmist or something, but we are affected by climate change here in Europe. You can check out the European Environmental Agency. They have a website, and on it they published a climate risk assessment, and they do confirm that we are in the threats of the global warming in Europe. And it's not just, in Europe we have like wildfires and the oceans are rising, but it's not just ecosystem, it's also like the same things as in the movie Demain. It's also our health, like when the heat rises in the summer, some people are very like threatened by that, some people die, which is like pretty bad. Also our food, like agriculture is affected, like with floods or droughts, or even the temperature change, like it's really, really dangerous. So yeah. Do you have any example?
Yeah, I was just like thinking about Germany because I'm from Germany, and everything you kind of said, it's already in Germany, like affecting the people. And I feel like for Germany especially, we have like this one goal. So they did like a contract, or signed one, that they want to be neutral in gas emissions, or like the how do you say it?
Carbon footprint, like the
I know the German word.
Like the greenhouse effect, maybe.
The greenhouse, the greenhouse emissions. Thank you.
Okay.
They want the greenhouse emissions neutrality by 2045. So we have 21 years to do that, and until 2030, so in 6 years, they want to reduce all of the carbon emissions by, I think it was like 68% since like 1990s. And looking at like looking at how it is right now, we will not achieve this goal. Like not far. If we go along with all of our habits, and like also as framed in this kind of scenario as well. Like if just the system does not change, we will not achieve that. So that is kind of not alarming, but it should be. Yeah, a little bit alarming.
Yeah, it is. That's why you should do protest.
Yes. I feel like you can already feel the tension in Germany. Maybe I feel like it's in the whole world kind of everywhere, that everybody is alarmed, but mostly by just like people also coming to Germany because they have to leave their home country due to the climate change. Of course, there are also other kind of reasons for that, but it will get even worse. And this year we had floods in the south of Germany. 4 people died because of floods and stuff like that. It is, it is because of the climate change.
And sometimes people don't realize it because it's not obviously, it's not, because some people still call it global warming, which is true, but like we still have like huge like snow all the time, snow tempests, which is very dangerous, and it's global warming effects, even though people like what? Like Trump tweeted that like the other day.
That's that. And especially also if you like skiing or going into the mountains, all of the snow between the rocks when it's like really high up, they just are attached because of the permafrost. I think that's how you say it in English. And if it gets warmer, of course it will melt, and if it melts, there's nothing which is holding it together. So rocks will fall. You cannot go skiing there anymore because it's dangerous, and skiing is also not good for the climate. And so everything, our nature is in danger. That is just like everything which is already happening. It's not in the future. It is kind of our reality nowadays, which is scary.
Okay. Next question. How does climate action affect the economy?
Okay, this question is maybe a little bit difficult, but we'll try to break it down, because first of all we have to kind of understand what the goal of our economy is, because we live in a capitalistic society, so our goal of the economy is always growth. So the growth is kind of, you can measure that with the GDP, the gross domestic product. What that means is that everything we make money with kind of goes into that. So it's just like what each country has the value of money, kind of, to break it down. It's easy, I don't know. And of course the goal is to kind of, we want a big amount of money, because that a big amount of money. And that is also what is happening right now, because we're seeking to grow that. And I think there was also one TED Talk, we will also link that in the bio. I don't know what his name was, but he said that we have 10 times the amount of money than we had like a few years ago. So we have more money, but the one problem is, or many would think, if we have more money, then also our lifestyle would probably improve. More people have their basic needs met, because where does the money go to if not to also the people? But sadly the problem is that like if we measure kind of everything with the GDP, it does not involve or doesn't also look at inequality, just like the lifestyle of people, everything, the well-being. So that's like not included in the GDP. So there's like this one new module which I also want to introduce, which is kind of looking at the well-being well-being of the people, but also looking at the planet. And it's called the donut economy. And this donut economy is like it's a new module. So I really enjoy that. I feel like it's very visible. We will show you the graphic of everything so you understand it. It has like 3 rings. So the ring in the middle, it's, I think, I don't even know the color of it, but it is the middle, and it says that these are like just like the basic needs that every human being has to have access to. Water, healthcare, food, those are the things that normally every person should have access to, and that is kind of the goal also. Then in the outer ring, like on the other side, we have the planetary boundaries. The problem we're facing right now is that these planetary boundaries, we cannot overshoot them. because they're like tipping points. If we once go over them or overshoot, there's no going back. And we have the problem right now that we've already overshoot some of them.
Yeah.
So the goal normally is to maintain that and like not overshoot them. And the inner ring, or like the ring which is like between those two, is the balanced kind of goal we want to achieve.
Yeah, where we want to be.
Yes, that is where we want to be. That is our goal, so that every basic needs are met without overshooting the planetary boundaries. I feel like it's pretty good to just like, it's a safe space, you know, for people. Yeah, but the problem is like we will not find that balance if we only seek for growth. Because I love also the metaphor. Like there's this one video which uses this metaphor. It says, imagine our economy is a plane. So the plane just like rises and rises. I mean, it sets off and it just like goes up, just like the growth we want to seek for. But with the plane, the problem is it cannot fly the whole time. It has to go back to the ground, refill up, and kind of thrive again. And that is the same with our economy. We cannot maintain that level we are currently having, or like the growth we're currently having on this earth. And it's not a realistic goal to just like seek for growth only. So we have to change something. We have to change the system in politics and just like people doing something. So my thoughts on the donut economy model are kind of that we have to think about how to use the things we already have and not always like strive for more and more, because we already have everything we need to solve, or like to kind of do something about the climate change. So maybe also regeneration is like a big thing. We have to reuse the things we already have, and just like think about alternative designs, because that's also one point that all of the models and everything we have currently is designed for our planet like a few years ago, but it changes. So we also have to change kind of our designs and our economy, our goals. We have to readjust it all the time, which is, I mean, easier to say. It's difficult to do that, but we have to start somewhere in order to kind of make a change, because otherwise our economy will also just like not be in a good state at all in the future.
Great. Next question.
Next question.
The last question is, how do you stay hopeful? Good question.
Yes, it is.
How do you stay hopeful, Jacqui?
I feel like, as we already said so many times, talking about it, and like also surrounding myself with people who share my beliefs and who I can also express my emotions with, like internal activism, but also like talking about the emotions I'm kind of I have right now, because otherwise I feel like I would also not be good. How do you do it?
I think I feel most hopeful when I go to protests. Like when I'm in the crowd full of people, the street is full and like you're all chanting together, I feel like so much better, because like I said before, it feels like a lonely fight, but it's not. Like a lot of people care, and when you're surrounded by them, even though you don't know them, it feels great. And I think it's really important to keep this in hopeful fight. Like it has to be full of hope. You know, it's not just escaping death and like the collapse of society. It's also, I mean, colloque, sorry, but like it is true. But it's also like protecting nature, you know. And that's actually what Germans call people who claim on French journalists and also an activist talks about this. Like there's so many good things to look for, and a lot of people are like, yes, scientists are making progress into finding new things, but you can also look back on like how humans used to live and how we can like do stuff, because you know, like before we had plastic bags, but people had normal bags, and now we go back to this, and it's great. You know, there's a lot of hopeful news out there. You kind of have to look for them, because the news would rather like it's more clickable when you are talking about like sad stuff, but there are hopeful news and there are reasons to be hopeful.
So true. I feel like for myself, when I look at news, of course it's more negative things, but you can find good things.
Sure.
For example, vapes are getting banned now. Did you see that? I'm like, that is good in England. So I'm like, that is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like it's gonna, I hope with this podcast or like videos and stuff like that, it also educates people and kind of gives hope. We want to give you guys hope.
Yeah.
We care.
Yeah.
We care about our planet.
Yeah. I think that's all.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for watching the video.
This was so much fun.
Yeah. If you enjoyed it, please comment something.
Yes, and share because that's, talk about it with your friends. Share the video. It would make us really happy. And
that's it. Bye.